it. Okay, the network is with us. We are launching into Free Talk Live, your show. You can take control of the airwaves. The toll-free number is 800-259-9231. That's the SACL CAI toll-free line for you, though we are going to open things up here tonight with a special guest. Joining you this evening, it's Ian with you.
And Nick.
And Mark.
Special guest on the lines, he is Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge Napolitano, are you with us?
Gentlemen, I am with joy and delight for sharing your airwaves with me.
Well, welcome to Free Talk Live.
We're happy to have you, Judge Napolitano.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I want to first of all start by thanking you and the crew over there at Freedom Watch, which is your Fox News internet television program. It airs on a weekly basis, I believe 2 o'clock Eastern Time. FreedomWatchOnFox.com is the website. Did I get all that correct so far?
You did. 2 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday, and we've really been picking up a lot of support. It's very helpful for the ideas that we all share and for the, how can I say it, future ability to get these ideas out to an even broader audience that people log on and do so as frequently as their hearts desire.
Well, and in other ways to achieve freedom more so in the future, I have joined the Facebook group Judge Napolitano for 2012, and I'd like to encourage all my listeners that are interested in that possibility to join that Facebook group. What do they want me to do
in 2012?
What's that?
What do they want me to do
in
2012?
They want you to run for president so that, I mean, I'm sorry, Ron Paul is going to be of a very old man at that time, and he is not likely going to run for any office, let alone the office of president. Somebody needs to pick up the torch. I feel like you're the best qualified guy out there.
Well, you're very generous to say that.
I'm not going to ask you if you're willing to.
Ron Paul is a great man.
He is.
Ron Paul is an epic figure in the freedom movement and has broken a lot of ceilings and burst a lot of bubbles, if you'll pardon those rather banal examples, but he has. And he has shown that when you're decent and honest and appeal to something that exists in every human being, which is the love of freedom and the desire to be left alone, the greatest freedom there is after the right to live, people will respond to it. The Republican establishment was stunned at the number of people who supported Ron Paul and the enthusiasm with which they did and the continued support that the freedom movement enjoys that was started by his campaign.
Well, you know, it certainly was. Many people were started in the freedom movement by his campaign. I personally was on the air doing liberty stuff before that, and but before I went on the air, I got a book from my then fiancée that I asked for. The only thing I asked for Christmas was Constitutional Crisis by Andrew Napolitano.
Constitutional Chaos?
I'm sorry, Chaos. Excuse me. In 2002 Christmas, I got that, or 2001. I'm a little confused, but it was right when it came out, and it was before we went on the air, so it must have been 2001. And that sort of got me started on the trail to liberty. So actually, you've managed to get some people started in the path of liberty.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. It's the story of how the government breaks its own laws, and it was an eye opener for a lot of people. It was even an eye opener for me, even though some of it is autobiographical, and I was personally involved in some of these events related in the book. But the public needs to know that the government is not your friend, and that an unbridled government, one that doesn't recognize the natural law, one that doesn't recognize the Constitution, one that doesn't even recognize the laws that it has written and it has sworn to uphold, is a danger to everybody's freedom and everybody's property.
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, that's one of the things I wanted to start out by, not only thanking you for having the Freedom Watch television show, but for also having one of our co-hosts here on Free Talk Live on from his jail cell, Sam Dodson, who, I mean, another perfect example of the government people just making up the rules as they go along, as you well know, thrown in a jail cell for daring to exercise his so-called freedom of the press in a public court lobby. I just want to thank you and your crew for having Sam on.
It was good having Sam on. I understand he's out. I don't know legally how it ended. I understand he was basically arrested for refusing to be arrested, which is ridiculous, but it's what the police do when you're a nuisance to them, and people who are nuisances to the police are usually exposing something that they're doing, and that's what Sam was doing. And Sam helped me coin a phrase, which is the camera is the new gun. And when you're dealing with the government, just film everything that you do, whether you're going to get a marriage license, whether you're dealing with a county clerk, whether you're getting a driver's license, or whether you're dealing with the police. Film everything you do because it's the greatest disinfectant there is, which is the eyes of the public on the government.
I completely agree. Let's get to your new book because, Mark, you mentioned Constitutional Chaos. That's from back in the early part of this decade. Right. What's available right now?
Dred Scott's Revenge. I jumped at the opportunity to be able to get this book as a review copy, and it is as good and as compelling of a read from Andrew Napolitano as Constitutional Chaos. I have been enjoying it. Why don't you
pitch us? What is it? What is the Dred Scott's Revenge?
Well, Dred Scott is a metaphor for government thinking it could do anything it wants. And Dred Scott, of course, was born as a slave in Virginia, and as an adult finds himself freed in Illinois and then re-enslaved in Missouri, and he files a lawsuit claiming that he was a free person. And the lawsuit has a 10-year tortuous history, but it eventually makes its way to the Supreme Court of the United States, which could have ruled that once a slave, always a slave, or could have ruled once set free, always free. But instead it came up with the worst of all possible rulings, which is that it couldn't hear the case because Dred Scott was not a person, and only persons can file lawsuits before federal courts in the United States of America. Now, that is an example of positivism, a theory of law which simply states the law is whatever the lawgiver says it is, and it is an utter rejection of the natural law, which teaches that our rights come from our humanity, and our rights to live and think and speak and worship and travel, our right to be left alone, our freedom from unreasonable restraint, our right to privacy, our right to travel. These are part of our humanity. They don't come from the government, and they can't be taken away from the government unless we're convicted of violating somebody else's rights. So I trace this metaphor through the prism of race from the slave trade to the election of Barack Obama and show how at so many turns, at so many opportunities, the government, your government and mine, had one set of laws for whites and one set of laws for blacks. I mean, the father of the country, one of the first pieces of legislation he signed was the Fugitive Slave Act, which allowed people in states where there was no slavery immunity from kidnapping for kidnapping runaway slaves and compelled the owner to pay a ransom to the kidnapper when the slave was returned.
Wow.
So, look, I mean, I start out with that. I proceed up to the Civil War. I demonstrate that Lincoln didn't free the slaves. I demonstrate, I think, that Lincoln killed more Americans than all wars combined, that slavery would have died a natural death as it did in Brazil and Puerto Rico and England
around the world.
And France.
Yeah, we pointed that out so many times, and it's so hard for Americans to hear it.
I can assure you of that.
And it's so hard for Americans to hear it because they've been going to these government schools or indoctrination centers, whatever you want to call them, that have been just telling them over and over again that the Civil War was all about freeing the slaves, when in point of fact, Abraham Lincoln really could have cared less.
Listen, the Emancipation Proclamation was issued in two sections. The first section purported to free the slaves in certain states, and the second section specifically authorized and enforced slavery in 4 states, in the city of New Orleans, and in 6 parishes surrounding New Orleans. I would guess that most Americans would be shocked to learn that. I would also guess that most Americans would be shocked to learn that Lincoln said many times he did not believe in the equality of the races. He actually paid a person $250,000 to bring 5,000 slaves to Africa to found a new country in the hopes that their brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and cousins would follow them. The Civil War was fought because Lincoln feared the loss of federal revenue, the principal source of which was tariffs collected at ports. And think about it. Most of the ports, starting with Wilmington, Delaware, and going to Houston, Texas, were in the states that seceded and thus denied Lincoln the money that he needed to run his burgeoning big government.
Judge Andrew Napolitano, I want to thank you for taking the time out to be on Free Talk Live tonight. I know you've got a busy schedule, so have a great night.
Pleasure's mine, guys.
Thank you, sir. Keep up the good work. And the book, again, is Dred Scott's Revenge, A Legal History of Race and Freedom in America. More Free Talk Live is on the way. You can take control of the airwaves. DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronic, photo, cell phone, office product, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supply, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Amazon.freetalklive.com. Get all your shopping done, a great deal, delivery to your door, and a percentage of your purchase will go to Free Talk Live when you enter Amazon through Amazon.freetalklive.com.